Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Door County. My name is Carrie Link, and it is an honor to be the service leader for this morning's service. Thank you, Sandy, for your musical talent and for willing to be here as often as you are. We appreciate your presence. Just a quick reminder, please, to turn off all cell phones or any other noise-making items you might have so that we can enjoy this morning's service. Welcome to everyone who is here and to those who are watching at home. As a way of welcoming, I'd like to offer these words by Louis Hergert. Love is the doctrine of this church. Our faith in each other is its sacrament. Working for justice and living with compassion is its prayer. Reverently, we covenant together to side with love, to heal and not to harm, and to share hope with each other and with the world. Thank you again for your presence here this morning, and I'm wondering if there are any visitors here this morning or maybe anyone who hasn't been here for a while. It is our custom to ask you to stand, introduce yourselves, tell us who you are, where you're coming from, and maybe what brought you here this morning. It's just our way of welcoming you more personally.
My wife on the way in said, you have to stand up. Since we've been married 46 years. Anyway, Jack and Edie Carter, we've been here from time to time. We mostly live in Madison, sometimes in Babies Harbor, and your congregation's delightful. I complimented your president on the way in on her piece that came out maybe on Wednesday. And I said she should have cursed more in it. No, I really didn't. But anyway, that's who we are.
Okay, well, thank you and welcome.
We're also new here at the church. We live in Babies Harbor. My wife Mary, my name is Jim Merlin, Mary Broder. And we came to see what it was about and frankly for the fellowship.
Very good, welcome.
My name is Tom Foster. I'm a recently retired music teacher who is here today with my husband, Don. We've been together for 36 years. And we've visited Door County over the past 25 years, so when it came time to choose where we were gonna retire, this was kind of a no-brainer for us.
Yep.
And we're here very, very specifically today, not just to check out the UU Church. I'm a pianist. I used to play at a UU Church when I was in graduate school working on a doctorate. So I was very, very familiar what the church was about. I've heard only beautiful things. Phil Sweet is a very dear friend of ours. And so we're finally here today, but not only just to, see what's happening here, but very specifically to see and hear Joan.
And you're in for a treat. Well, thank you. Welcome. Yes.
She's visiting, I'm here. I'm Kim Kelleher. I'm here visiting my mother from New York City, and it's always wonderful to come back here. We come home every time I'm here. This is our Sunday stop. We're late today, so we're going to go soon.
Welcome. Yes.
I'm Andrea Garland, and I'm here visiting my aunt and uncle, Pete and Ruth Budick from Appleton, and I also live in DuPont, so it's been wonderful to visit and see everybody here. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Welcome. Thank you again, and we hope that you have signed the guest book at the entrance to the sanctuary. And if there is anyone who would like to know more about Unitarian Universalism in general, or about our fellowship in particular, please feel free to ask any of us. The people with yellow name tags are board members. They'd be happy to speak to you, but anyone with a name tag will bend your ear. After the postlude, please join everyone in the gathering room for coffee, tea, and conversation. And after about 15 to 20 minutes, the chimes will sound, which is the signal for the start of the talkback with our speaker, the Reverend Joan Shields. And we do like to finish up the talkback at 11:45. Many of us know Reverend Shields, as she is quite often a speaker here. And we're really grateful that she's always here, willing to spend the time with us. She is an excellent storyteller and has an extensive background in the religions of the world. Thanks, Joan. Please take a look at the back of your order of service to see the announcements. They usually pertain just to our fellowship, but if there are any other announcements anyone would like to make, Maury Ash will bring the mic to you. So you just need to hold up your hand.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jane Wise. I have two announcements, and one is on the back of the service order, but it has to do with the cereal and snack food barrel. So thank you so much for everything you brought. We took the soup, the barrel full of soup, to the Door of Life food pantry the other day, and they had maybe half a dozen cans of soup on the shelf, and now they have a full shelf, double stacked of soup. So someone did come out and thanked us very much. They wanted me to thank you all for donating the soup. The cereal and snack shelves were pretty empty. There were maybe 3 cereals and not very many snacks at all, little packages of things. So again, thank you so much. Next week is Thanksgiving dinner food barrel, and that's to give the patrons of the food pantry opportunity to get their Thanksgiving meals started. But you can bring whatever, as always, bring whatever you'd like. Do please watch the due dates or the expiration dates. I had to throw away some cornmeal mixes that were 4 years old. So I didn't think they'd turn out very well. But thank you for whatever you want to bring. My second announcement is for our outreach steering committee. One of our partners, as you know, is the Northern Door Children's Center. And we know we appreciate the monetary donations, but we also wanted to get people involved individually. And they have their big stuffing coming up, envelope stuffing for their, what's the word for it? They want your money for their operating expenses for next year. And so they have 15,000 envelopes to stuff. We've done this in past years. This year, I don't think we're going to do it here, but I am very willing to bring 500 pieces of literature to you to stuff. So please let me know if you're interested, and I'll put something in the news in the e-blast. But I'm also going to send an email to a bunch of you who've done it before. So I hope you're interested in doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane.
Hi, I'm Mark Richards. You all know that I'm president of the Wisconsin Unitarian Universalist State Action Network. We will have our quarterly all-member meeting on Wednesday evening, November 20th. It is an online meeting. Our guest speaker is going to be Senator Kelda Roys, a Democrat from Madison. And she's going to talk to us about the changes in the legislature and what we can hope for and what we may not want to hope for.
Cindy Nelson, this is on the back of the order of service, but I'm just reminding you, our tree will look kind of bare. I certainly appreciate those people who have already brought hats and mittens for our Christmas tree, which will then, all of these will be donated to the Northern Door Children's Center. I also will offer a little service, and that is for those of you who perhaps are unable to get out to shop, and there aren't a lot of places to shop up here, so most of you have to get down to Sturgeon Bay. I would be happy to buy for you if in fact that would make it easier for you to help our hat and mitten tree. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Hi, I'm Bob Lindahl, and I'm going to be giving Sarah some information hopefully this week on, I just heard of a planned volunteer orientation at Scandia Village, and I left the date at home, so I've got to look at that again. But if you see that coming out from Sarah, if you have ever considered volunteering there with some wonderful, wonderful residents, I encourage you to pay close attention to that. Person doing the training is a delightful person who's the activity director, and I think you would enjoy just checking it out. Volunteerism is finally starting to pick up again since COVID, so it's taken a while, but it's finally starting to pick up again.
Thanks, Bob. And now is the time that we will light our chalice. Vicki Ash will light the chalice with these words by Christine Robertson. We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life we share together. Please stand as you are able in body or spirit for hymn number 97 in the gray hymnal, and then remain standing for the unison affirmation and doxology. We gather together to seek knowledge and wisdom, to explore freely the vast reaches of mind and spirit, to celebrate within a caring community those truths, ancient and modern, which give meaning and direction to our lives. From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung, in every land, on every tongue. Is there something that has happened to you, good or sad, which you would like to share? Sharing these kind of moments often helps us to be a more caring person. And I do have to say that I'm hoping that we have been able to get over this past week with things that have gone on, and they are sad. However, we can look forward to whatever is good. So if you would like to share something, and it does involve another person, please make sure that you have received permission from that person to mention their name. And again, Maury will bring the microphone to you if there are any joys.
Me,
Okay,
Vicki Ash here. I got up early Wednesday morning, full of angst, as I'm sure most of us were. And my son, who has never been a cheerleader much in my life, sent me an email and said, "Mom, don't forget about your granddaughter. She needs you to stay strong and stay in the fight. And we can do this for her." Oh, my heart.
yeah, thank you, Vicki.
I'm Meg Ziegelman, and I'm speaking from concern, and I hope I can get through this. Many of you know our friend, Karen Gatenby. This week, she's been diagnosed with liver cancer. I know. She's scheduled for surgery at Froedtert Hospital in Milwaukee on November 26th. Family is coming in. Her daughter's coming in from England to stay through the surgery and hospitalization. She'll be in the hospital for 4 or 5 days after to start heavy chemotherapy and to make sure that she's made it through the surgery without complications. And then they will stay another week at a hotel again, so that they're in Milwaukee near the hospital, so that they can get to services quickly if they should. They're obviously very worried, so I think any cards or gestures of support will really mean a lot to them. So with that, I did ask Karen if Tony was smothering her with love, and she said, yes, yes, he is.
Hi, it's me again, just because I like microphones. So on Tuesday, I drove to Milwaukee and I spent the day at the, I want to get this right, Atasa High School, which is a polling place. I was serving as a poll chaplain. And I was extraordinarily moved by the turnout. The director there told me this was the best turnout they've had in years, that this was the most registrations that they had on site in years. But most importantly, out in the street, There was a group called Fast Forward Wisconsin. And everybody who left that poll was challenged by them to go home and call two people, call their relatives, call their friends, and get them to the polls. They were so joyful. There was so much good energy. And then after dark, a DJ came and we were dancing in the street. It was a wonderful, joyful experience. And I'm hoping that every election from now on will be the same.
Yes.
Well, today, I guess, is a day of joy for two reasons. One, of course, my wife is back, Carol, from the
Yes.
hospital. But the other was on Wednesday, our son from Australia called to check in on us to see if we were okay.
Oh,
And so that's an indication that what happens in America impacts the world. And we've been aware of that for a long time, but the fact that he called us specifically to check on us, that's a joyful thing.
yes, it is. Thank you, Ken.
Hi, my name is Gwen Grayboys, and like everybody here, I had lots of sadness on Wednesday, but this has been bouncing around in my head for a while, and I wanted to share it with you. I first heard this poem quote at Seder's that my friends' families had, and it has stuck with me, and I think it's particularly appropriate. Most of you may recognize this. This is a quote by the German Lutheran pastor Martin Niemöller. It hangs on as the final words of the exhibit at the United States Holocaust Museum. After World War II, Niemöller spoke openly about his own early complicity in Nazism, having voted twice for the Nazi Party, 29, I think, and 34 or whatever, and his eventual change of heart. His powerful words of guilt and responsibility still resonate today. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me.
I'm Bob Lindahl, and I try not to get up twice in a service, but that's the way it goes. I saw an article this morning that really, I'm not even completely done with it, an article that kind of advises us on how to deal with our emotions and our future action in times like this. And I thought it was pretty well researched. So I hope what I give you here is true. Okay. But in a section there on in the article on realizing what you can do and what you can't do, and kind of, in other words, figure out what battles you can be part of and what you're going to have to let somebody else take care of. He made this comment. He referred to the serenity prayer, and we've all heard it. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. But notably, the article said, the prayer comes from the theologian Reinhold Niebuhr as he was watching the rise of Nazis in Germany. And I asked two people in the fellowship today who are smarter than I am if they were aware of that, and they said no. So I thought I would share that with you.
Good morning, everybody. Maria Thompson. Joan, you said something a while back about finding the good and trying not to be cynical. And this is something that I try to have every day with my little preschool kids and myself. But I saw this, And so I'm standing up for the positivity of a couple of beautiful things that happened this week. One thing is I found is keep fighting for the good. Keep showing up, keep loving, keep giving back, keep being kind, keep being brave, keep caring, keep trying new things, keep showing grace. Keep on. This world needs you to believe in the good. And when I saw that, it just helped me through. I also want to celebrate my beautiful cousin and my beautiful best friend for celebrating her birthday, which is a milestone, and I'll let you guess what it is. She's 50 years old. Happy birthday, Anna.
Is it today, Anna? Oh, okay. Well, happy belated birthday.
I guess I want to announce, first of all, that when we speakers have to give the UU our message title, it's 4 to 6 weeks ahead of when we show up here. So I didn't think that I would be able in that short time frame to create an adequate message about the election. But I am so pleased to be a part of this community in many ways, but today, because you've all given the message about the election. Thank you. So I can go to my topic.
The offering is a sacrament of the free church. It is supported by the generosity of all who join us. The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared hopes and values. And as it says in the order of service, donations can be safely made online at uufdc.org. Let us open our minds and hearts to the place of quiet, to the silent prayer for the healing of pain and the soft, gentle coming of love.
A very lovely morning to all of you as we seek the good. Thank you. I do have a reading. It doesn't say so on the bulletin, but I do. It's from Atul Gawande. Many of you have read his book, Being Mortal, which is a wonderful book. This is from an article he wrote in the New Yorker in 2010. He says, in the many years of human civilization before the 20th century, death often came swiftly and unexpectedly. When you were run over by a carriage, you usually died within 24 hours. In our time, swift, catastrophic illness is the exception. For most people, death comes only after a long medical struggle with an incurable condition. Advanced illness, progressive organ failure, or the multiple debilities of very old age. In all such cases, death is certain, but the timing is not. So everyone struggles with this uncertainty, with how and when to accept that the battle is lost. Technology can sustain our organs until we are well past the point of awareness and coherence. And how do you attend to the thoughts and concerns of the dying when medicine has made it almost impossible to be sure who is dying and at what time? When is someone with terminal cancer, dementia, incurable congestive heart failure dying exactly? Now I'm going to begin this message with a caveat. That caveat is that I've known for a very long time that there are two kinds of people. There are planners and there are I don't like to planners. Planners wake up in the morning and they have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen during their day. And they have made a to-do list, or it's the first thing they do in the morning. They have made prior decisions about what needs to be done, what will be done, and they feel good that they have done that. Non-planners find making decisions ahead of time unpleasant. They don't make lists. They don't want to be told that they should make a list. And when they wake up in the morning, they prefer to think, I wonder what's going to happen today. So if you're a non-planner, you might prefer to leave now. Likewise, if you find the topic of grave illness and death unpleasant, you might want to go into the next room a little early, like now, and have your coffee and wait for the rest of us planners to show up. Because I know that serious illness and the dying process can be a very challenging topic for almost anybody. Even if you are facing a serious illness, a grave diagnosis, or supporting a loved one who does, and how appropriate that Meg's announcement this morning about Karn was, it's always in our midst. None of us at this point have been untouched by this information. Or maybe you're just here because you're interested in how you might make plans for your own last chapter of life. Now, I worked really hard on this message, trying to choose remarks that would not be offensive
And I apologize in advance that I do. I'm so comfortable with talking about this death and dying process that I forget sometimes how hard it is for people to listen to. My goal today is to provide you with some questions that can prompt a conversation about grave illness and end-of-life care. I believe that I can offer you some help, especially if you believe, as I do, that the most important thing is living better and not necessarily living longer. And ideally, we receive this information before it's necessary to make a decision. As our population grows older and sicker, we do ourselves a favor by educating ourselves about our choices when these illnesses and death get near. We're living in a time when our medical system has an aggressive approach. We're living in a time when people who are dying or critically ill are faced with an American medical training that forces a heroic model of saving lives at any cost. American can-do optimism assumes all problems can and should be solved. Both doctors and patients tend to subscribe to a more is better philosophy, believing that if technology exists, we should use it. Physicians' fears of litigation play a part in this, but so do patients' fantasies. These fantasies are fed by well-meaning deceptions announced by doctors, repeated by family members, friends. No one wants to believe that there isn't one last drug, that there isn't one last procedure that might turn things around. These fantasies become very costly in our time. Families and patients both experience a huge emotional toll and too often wind up paying an often crushing financial price to pursue that elusive goal. Countless interviews with doctors and nurses and families suggest that far too many people are dying in a prolonged and needlessly painful way. It's not only prolonged and painful, it can be very lonely and frightening. I think Carol chose sometimes I feel like a motherless child for those moments that people feel that way. In the hospital or in the ICU, people are demeaned by the institution, by the technology, and patients often become frightened and confused, falling into a downward spiral of fear and distress. Not only does our current system poorly serve our medical needs, it also crowds out any sense of the sacred. More and more of us would like to have greater knowledge of the options available to us in these stages of life, as particularly concerns those emotional and spiritual needs. Never realized, oh, I never expected, oh, I never thought this could happen. These are the words I hear over and over again. Having served in an emergency room, in a hospital, and in hospice care. And I'm imagining that Mark has felt much the same in his ministry. People thought because they or their loved ones had clearly announced that they didn't want to have a dragged out death, that they didn't want to be hooked to machines when the end was near, and that because they just said it, that these wishes would magically come true. They didn't realize that it doesn't happen like that. It simply isn't that easy. It is fairly easy to address the question of physical pain, but we have to remember to address the issues of loss of autonomy, loss of dignity, the loss of quality of life, and an inability to converse and engage in the things, the ordinary things that make life meaningful. Unfortunately, illness and death is managed solely by our medical system is too often unpleasant and too often torturous for patients. But it is also horrible for family members and their loved ones, for they often miss the chance to say goodbye, to smooth out wrinkles in the relationship, and to give a final gift of support and love, a gift they often desperately want to bestow, but are not given the chance to do so. When a patient provides instructions for the kind of death they want to have, it is a gift to their family, relieving their loved ones of the agony of guessing. Many of you have signed a medical directive or a healthcare proxy, similar documents. But nationally, only about 15% of people sign these documents that outlines their wishes and names a surrogate decision maker. But often these documents are ignored with impunity. These patients go on to receive unwanted medical treatment, especially when the hospital is owned by a religious organization. I see lots of heads nodding, people having had these experiences. According to researchers, these health proxy documents that I have stood here and said, get one, and they are helpful, but they are often ineffectual, particularly with regarding emotional and spiritual care. We wonder how, despite all of our best intentions, despite our legal documents, how did it happen this way? What could we have done differently? Well, I have been researching this topic since I was 50, more intensely now that I'm 75. We can reclaim the experience of illness and dying. We can. We have the power to change it, to make it ours again. But to do so, we must be aware of the options available to us besides aggressive medical treatment. There are choices that can keep us from getting on the medical conveyor belt that often immediately follow a grave diagnosis. And some of these choices are: a patient has the right to refuse any and all medical treatment and to instead receive only palliative care, where the patient's priority is simply keep me comfortable. There is hospice, an option well known to the people in this room. We also have the right to medical aid in dying. Now, physician-assisted death is legal in only 10 states, not in Wisconsin, but there are options for other methods of assisted death in this state and in others. And I have things I can refer you to if you would like more of that information. Of course, one option is to pursue all medical treatment, and for many people, this is what they want. And if that is what they want, we honor that. The medical system will readily deliver it. But without prior stated choices, this is the medical system's default. And this is the option that will take place if there is not someone to speak for the patient, if they cannot speak for themselves. For many people, death is unspeakable and unthinkable, and they do not want and will refuse to make decisions. I have encountered this, and I have calmly accepted it because the patient has made a choice. But when the person does make their own decisions, their loved ones know that it was the patient's choice. And if someone is unable to speak for themselves and family members disagree about treatment or no treatment, it can become an emotional quagmire for everyone. When someone is faced with a life-threatening illness or has reached an advanced state of age and the increasing debilities that go with increased age, initiating a conversation about care options well before it becomes necessary to make a decision is essential, because there are questions that can reveal transformative possibilities. Such a conversation can make all the difference between a decent extended life and a thicket of nightmares. These are the 4 questions. 1, what is your understanding? What is your understanding of your current medical condition? They should be able to state a clear and concise explanation of what they are facing, what is going on in their body, acknowledging the likely prognosis of the situation, and they should not be confused about the likely outcome of proposed treatments and the likely result of refusing all or some treatment. Question 2, what are your goals if your health worsens? People's answers vary, but often include wanting to be free from pain, returning home, the ability to converse and have some semblance of a normal life. I have a friend whose father was an academic, through and through, serious intellectual, and he got ALS, a very degenerative disease, I'm sure you all know. And his daughter went to him and said, what is important to you? What is it that is important that you can do as your ALS progresses? And he said, if I can watch football on TV and eat ice cream, I want to be here. She didn't even know that he liked football. And she was shocked, but she had her answer. 3, what are your fears? Most everyone mentions a fear of pain or being useless and being a burden to their family, or wanting to work out unresolved issues with family members or other loved ones. You may be very surprised at people's fears. I certainly have. But allowing them to speak them aloud goes a long way to resolving some of these issues for the patient. And 4, what are the trade-offs that you are willing to accept or not willing to accept to preserve your life? Patients may be unwilling to go into ICU or on a respirator or lose their vision or become paralyzed, any of 1,000 things that we cannot guess at. It's impossible to anticipate what someone considers an acceptable quality of life and what crosses the line for them. What will they absolutely not want to live with? Now, these conversations can't happen just once. They need to be repeated over time as the person, their answers may change. They probably will change based on their prognosis, the prolonged experience of the condition, their personal hopes and private goals. But people, other people, should know and respect their choices. Now, most of us would choose not to die at all. Like, Woody Allen said, I don't mind dying, I just don't want to be there when it happens. But barring that possibility, most of us would choose to die in a controlled, comfortable way. And to do so, we need to learn how to make a place for death in our lives, just as we make plans for the birth of a child. We would not say, oh, well, I guess a baby's going to come at some point. We do ourselves a great disservice if we do not make plans for death, for birth, for the inevitable possibilities of our life. When people have done the work of stating their own goals and values in advance. They have documented those preferences. They often say that they feel a great sense of relief, that they have some control. One of my favorite, by a library on this topic, but one of my favorite books is called The Last Choice. And his preface is that, particularly for people like us, who have made our own decisions throughout most of life. We've had businesses, we've had jobs, we've had relationships. We are in control. We make the choices. And yet, when it comes to death, that choice is taken from us. That particularly people who are used to making choices should be the ones to make that one. In his book, Dr. Sherwin Newland, his book is How We Die, he says, illness and death should belong to the dying and to those who love them. Clearly, it should, but it doesn't. It belongs to doctors and hospitals and drug manufacturers and insurance companies and policymakers, all of whom drive that ultimate care. They own our final days and months. They own our dying. There are exceptions. Of course, I have heard stories of peaceful deaths. I have witnessed them, but almost never without some preparation having been made for it. We have ceded control to this medical and insurance and policy-making institutions because we've ceded control of it to them. We've done it particularly over the last 50 years, but it doesn't have to be this way. We can reclaim death and make it ours again. The 4 questions again, and I have printed them out on little slips of paper who are gonna ask me for them. 1, what is your understanding of your medical condition, your health condition? What are your goals if your health worsens? They may say, well, I want to get better. We all want that. But what if your health worsens? What are your fears? And be specific. And what are the trade-offs that you are willing to make and not willing to make to preserve your life? It's often a good idea to begin these conversations by saying, I'd like you to tell me how I can make things easier for you. I really want to know. The Tibetan Lama Sogyal Rinpoche recently updated and revised the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, which is a spiritual classic about the interplay of living and dying. And in it, he writes, when I first came to the West in the 1970s, what disturbed me deeply and what continues to disturb me is the almost complete lack of spiritual help for the dying that exists in modern culture. In Tibet, everyone has some knowledge of the higher truths of Buddhism. No one dies without being cared for in both superficial and profound ways by the community. I have been told many stories of people dying alone and in great distress and disillusion in the West without any spiritual help. One of my main motivations in writing this book is to extend the healing wisdom of the world that I grew up with to all men and women. Modern medicine is very good at staving off death and very bad at knowing when to focus instead on improving the days that a terminal patient has left. Do we not all have a right, as we are dying, to not only have our bodies treated with respect, but also, and perhaps even more important, our spirits? Shouldn't one of the main rights of any civilized society be the right to die surrounded by spiritual care? What does it say about us when we choose to extend life through expensive and painful technology when we could have instead chosen to help ourselves and our loved ones to die and experience illness and death with dignity and peace. Something to think about. Peace be with you.
That is an excellent, excellent topic, and I hope that all of you will come to the talk back. I know I'm definitely going to be there. So please stand as you are able in body or spirit for singing hymn number, I think it's 1029 in the teal music, hymnal. If here you have found freedom, take it with you into the world. If you have found comfort, go and share it with others. If you have dreamed dreams, help one another that they may come true. If you have known love, give some back to a bruised and hurting world. Go in peace.